Hello, thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Chamberlain Osawa, Channels Television here in Lagos. I'm joined by Vincent Makori from Voice of America in Washington.
Thanks, I'm Vincent Makori at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Our broadcast still looks a little different because of the global pandemic, but we truly appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Chamberlain Oso in Lagos brings you that story.
President Muhammadu Buhari has officially commissioned the completed Zobe Regional Water Treatment Plant project in Dutsima local government area of Katsina State. Since 1992, the project has suffered setbacks due to neglect and lack of budget support by successive administrations. On inception in 2015, the federal government, in collaboration with the Katsina State government, commenced execution of the plant to address the acute water scarcity in the state.
The Zobe Regional Water Supply Scheme, meant to meet the water needs of residents of Katsina and environs, have remained fallow since 1992 due to paucity of funds. The story, however, changed in 2015 when the federal government, in conjunction with the Katsina State government, decided to take over the execution of the project. And this accounts for President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to the state for the inauguration of the Zobe Regional Water Supply Scheme. But before the commissioning, the Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, makes some clarifications about the undertaking.
The execution of the Zobe Regional Water Supply Scheme suffered serious setback for over 25 years, as the contract was first awarded in 1982, but got stalled at 45% completion due to neglect and lack of budget support until the advent of this administration. To move the project forward, we reviewed the project in consultation with Katsina State government.
Next, Governor Aminu Masari appreciates the federal government for taking over and completing the project. A development, he says, will give the Katsina State government the impetus to complete the second phase of the water scheme.
I wish to assure Mr. President that we shall effectively maintain and sustain those water supply facilities in the best of our ability for the benefit of our people.
President Buhari restates the commitment of his administration to continue to prioritize the provision of potable water to Nigerians and asked the Federal Ministry of Water Resources to pursue that vision.
It is our desire that Nigerians, irrespective of location in the country, should have access to adequate potable water supply and sanitation facilities as enshrined in the LPG target to water supply and sanitation. However, for this national aspiration to be realized, we need to mobilize funds from all sources, including the private sector.
After his address, the president then inaugurates the project and the Minister of Water Resources takes him around the facility.
Well, joining us to discuss this is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Akwa Ibom Water Company Limited, Engineer Basi Ituk. Glad to have you join us on Africa 54.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, tell us, what do you think project like this, what kind of impact do you see it having on communities?
Well, just as we were told, it was a project that was started off about 40 years ago. Those sad enough to know that it never took off fully until recently when the president, through the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, has made sure that it became a realization, as in coming into fruition. And the beauty about it is that it's serving a dual purpose, both for irrigation and for water supply. I'm told it's going to cover irrigational areas of about over 10,000 hectares of land, farmland, and then also has a very big capacity to produce water, about 177 billion liters of water. That's about 177 million cubic meters of water. And that's quite an expansive project. And I'm told it's to spread, I think, about 13 local governments or so in Katsina State. So it's not just a mini water scheme, it's a major one, because it's seen as a regional water scheme that spreads into so many communities.
So in consideration of how long it took before this took off and the importance attached to it, usually there are questions about maintenance. Do you think this time around we could have had it all figured out?
When you discuss the issue of maintenance, definitely it's one thing to buy a car, it's another thing to maintain. And from what we gathered, why it took this long, I think the president was quick to point out that no one gave it an attention. The attention here from funding, particularly as it was, but then the issue of putting up a project is one thing. Another thing is to make it sustainable. Because like you can see from the United Nations SDG program, they are looking at something that will be more like, would outlive us, would stay too long and have a longer lifespan. And particularly maintenance is a key issue. So maintenance is either you grab it or you leave it, as it were. It cannot be ignored. And it's a huge resource in that area. I'm sitting on a company in Akwa Ibom here, particularly in Uyo, and I know what it takes to maintain. And in trying to pass the buck to the public, it's not something you do just overnight. It's a collaborative effort by the citizenry, the government, the civil societies in coming together and getting what we call a model that makes it sustainable, but the cost is there. I believe going forward, there is a hope and there's something we can do about it, making it integrated in the entire system. So just like the president has commissioned this wonderful project, I think all stakeholders should come together and ensure that beyond the establishment of the project, there should be a module, a financial module that will ensure its sustainability.
All right, then, Bassey Otuk, MD, CEO, Akwa Ibom Water Company Limited. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. At least 20 countries across Africa are in the grip of a third wave of COVID-19 infections, according to Africa CDC. Still, the rates of vaccinations are very low. VOA's Justin Marlin Kansadian has this report.
With the new Delta variant becoming dominant in at least 10 of the 20 countries experiencing a third wave of COVID-19, according to the WHO, less than 2% of Africans being fully vaccinated, and the premature relaxation of restrictions, this surge in cases isn't exactly a surprise, and it could get worse.
In total on the continent, there have now been almost 5.7 million COVID-19 cases, and 146,000 people, sadly, have lost their lives. New cases have increased for the 7th week running. For Africa, the worst is yet to come as the fast-moving third wave continues to gain speed and new ground in countries.
More vaccines will be available through COVAX in the next few months, but some officials say that's not fast enough.
Let me put it very bluntly. We are not winning in Africa. We are not winning in Africa, this battle against the virus. So it really doesn't matter to me at this point whether the vaccines are from COVAX or from anything. What we need is rapid access to vaccines to member states.
Availability isn't the only hurdle. Nations such as Angola and Eswatini made good use of the vaccines received so far, using nearly 100% of their doses, according to the WHO. But many other countries did not, and are still fighting issues regarding access as well as hesitancy. Both need to be solved, or the waves will keep coming.
So we don't want vaccines to be available and people not taking them, or we don't want people who wanted to get vaccinated and not having enough vaccines. The international community need to keep the effort to get the vaccines in Africa, but also local government in Africa need to work on the issue of vaccine hesitancy.
And the mixed messaging isn't helping. For instance, the AstraZeneca vaccine produced in India has been approved by the WHO and been given to many people in Africa, but it's now not being recognized for the European vaccine passport.
The World Health Organization, the EU, the CDC, and also the Chinese, they need to speak the same language. That will help us go out there and convince the people that there is no conspiracy around this vaccine.
The WHO reports that some countries in Africa have yet to receive any vaccines at all. And some experts there say it's an obligation of wealthier nations that have more supplies than they will use to get those vaccines to people who need them. Justine Mullen-Kanzadian, VOA News, Washington, D.C.
The Cross River State government has flagged off the first round of the 2021 Maternal, Newborn and Child Health Week. According to the Director General of the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Janet Ekpayong, the exercise is to monitor expectant mothers and children from 0 to 59 months in terms of nutrition, hygiene, immunization, as well as access to quality healthcare services.
In the heart of Calabar South local government area of Cross River State is popular Bugubiri, the ever-busy Muslim community with a population of approximately 5,000 people.
14 weeks. Make sure say your people contact IPP.
These women, like many others in various communities across the state, are innocently exposed to the risk of vaccine-preventable diseases during pregnancy, as well as their children. Hence the need for sensitization on taking advantage of various health interventions. Flagging of the exercise, the wife of the state governor, Dr. Linda Ayade, educates the women on the importance of visiting health facilities during pregnancy and after childbirth.
It is very, very important that we take good care of our health. And we start to take care of our health, the health of the child, the health of you and me. For me to stand healthy today is that care that was given to that baby when the baby was still in the womb. It is very, very important. You start from day one when you discover that your wife, when you discover, my dear woman, that you are pregnant.
Being a key part of polio eradication through the use of IPV vaccine is a milestone the state celebrates and plans to maintain by strengthening routine immunization.
Because of the great work that we've done with the resilience of all our health workers in our communities, they've entered right from the hills of Obanliku to the creeks of Bakassi, ensuring that no child is left out. That's why we've been able to record such results. So, Your Excellency, the federal government, through the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, thought it wise that we need to continue to be very proactive and ensure that we get our children vaccinated, not just taking the IPV1, but let's see how we can also introduce the IPV2. Because all of them today
Members of the community are grateful for this gesture, the pledge to adhere to experts' directives.
The advice she gave to us, we will make use of it.
The campaign for maternal health targets over 900,000 children and pregnant women across the 18 local government areas of the state.
In northern Cameroon's refugee camps, fighting over natural resources between host communities and mostly Nigerian refugees has caused tensions and environmental damage. Local groups, with the support of the UN's Refugee Agency, are working to reduce conflict and improve the ecology by reforesting in and around the camps. And Zeokyo in Minawao, Cameroon, has this report narrated by Moki Edwin Kinseka.
Nigerian refugee Mariamo Andraos cooks with charcoal she makes herself at Minawawo camp, her home for the past 5 years in northern Cameroon.
To find wood, we had to go into the bush. And even in the bush, it was not easy. We couldn't cut wood. People chased us. They confiscated our equipment, our tools.
The Minawawo area hosts about 118,000 Nigerians who, since 2014, have been fleeing unrest caused by Nigerian militant Islamist group Boko Haram. The number of refugees in the area has further strained natural resources like wood for cooking, creating tensions between the host community.
Before the arrival of the refugees, these people paid 100 francs for a bundle of wood. Now they can't even find the wood. Even with 1,000 francs, you can't get it.
To reduce the tensions and restore the ecology, the UN's refugee agency and local aid groups are reforesting around the camp.
According to my observation, the reforestation is more accentuated in the refugee camp. Outside the camp, there is reforestation, but it is not enough. It is necessary to reforest the whole area. Wherever the host population suffers, everything must be reforested.
The UNHCR says in the past 5 years, they have so far planted more than 500,000 seedlings. They are also teaching refugees and locals renewable cooking fuel options, such as making charcoal for household waste.
Des cuisinières solaires. Donc c'est un système aussi que nous allons.
Solar stoves? It is a system that we are going to experiment with in the camp. If we see that it can work very well, why not popularize them so that refugees can start cooking with solar energy?
La cuisine avec l'énergie solaire.
Meanwhile, Nigerian refugees like Andrawos can make and sell the household waste coal to earn money while helping to save trees. Andrawos has used her profits to start a small goat breeding farm. For Anne Zwanke in Minawawo, Cameroon, Moki Edwin Kinzeka for VOA News.
Egypt has opened up a disability-friendly beach in Alexandria, the country's second largest city. The motive is to make public venues accessible to everyone, especially the physically challenged.
When teenager Abdurrahman Mohammed would go to the beach in his coastal city of Alexandria, he would have to stay by the sidewalk watching other children swim from the confines of his wheelchair. Today, as the governorate inaugurated its first disability-friendly beach, he can push his wheelchair down a platform, receive assistance from aid workers, and use floaters to swim in the water. The initiative is part of a wider campaign to make several beaches in Egypt's Alexandria more open to people with disabilities.
We are happy. We now have our own beach for those with disabilities in Alexandria. This is the first beach of its kind in the Republic. We used to look out to the sea from the sidewalk. We couldn't swim or enjoy the water. Now we are like everyone else. In everything, we don't need or ask for help from anyone. We make it to the beach with our own wheelchairs and canes and enjoy the water.
Called Al Mondara, the beach is around 230 meters long, and a third of it has been allocated for people with disabilities. The beach is equipped with a wooden platform that extends all the way to the water, aid workers that assist visitors, special chairs, and a rescue team with an ambulance on standby.
In a few days, we'll get a barrier that we'll place in the sea so that people with disabilities can swim while being surrounded by it, and they can be in the water without putting their lives in danger.
A 2006 census found that nearly 1 million Egyptians have some form of disability, though some experts estimate that the number is closer to 8 million, or 10% of the population. Of these, nearly half have conditions that require some sort of intervention. The latest initiative is also meant to encourage inclusivity, making public venues more accessible to everyone.
29 elite athletes from 11 countries comprise the International Olympic Committee's Refugee Olympic team. Now, the group is competing in the Summer Games in Tokyo that opened on July the 23rd. As VOA's Laura Bowman reports, it's only the second time in history that a team of refugee athletes will compete in the Games.
These South Sudanese athletes are among the 29 athletes on the Refugee Olympic team. They'll compete in the Summer Games in Tokyo that open on July 23rd.
For the 29 athletes that I'm going to lead, I think we will not miss a medal. We have also Popole for the judo from Brazil. We have this lady from Iran who's already have a medal in the taekwondo.
The athletes hail from 11 countries, including Afghanistan, Eritrea, Cameroon, and Iraq. They'll compete in 12 sports, ranging from swimming and boxing to badminton and weightlifting.
My expectation to all the refugees athletes is to do their best and also give the message of hope to all the refugees around the world, because they are representing the entire refugee community in the world.
The Tokyo team was chosen from refugee athletes currently supported by the International Olympic Committee through a scholarship program. The IOC says it hopes the team will bring attention to the plight of the more than 80 million displaced people worldwide.
It's a message to the entire world to make the world aware of the magnitude of this crisis, which is growing every day. And it's also a message that these forcibly displaced people are an enrichment to all our societies.
A view shared by the athletes.
Showing the world that refugee also can dream, and showing the world that refugees has goals. And even though they survived wars, they still are living their dreams.
It's just the second time in history that refugee athletes have competed in the Olympics. The first time was in Rio in 2016. Laurel Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word from Lagos.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. ChannelsTV.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.